can't see me, you Stevie. Wondering how I reach more evolutions than Evie and make it look easy.
What is up, Earth's mightiest subscribers? It's Ernie the Blerd without fear. Welcome back to the channel. All right, so today's video, we're going to be talking about X-Men number 12, follow-up from the previous one where we saw that Cyclops was being hunted by space pirate bounty hunters, and in the midst of all that, it was revealed that he had a bounty on his head. Somebody wanted him. We just didn't know what entity wanted him. And as it turns out, there was no one singular entity that we're aware of, but the whole point of this is basically what I said it was likely in relation to the fact that Jean Grey is the Phoenix. She is more powerful than ever, and she's even become so powerful to the point that even if she dies, she will immediately come back to life and be more powerful than she was before she died. And this is something that absolutely terrifies the entire universe, to the point that if you go over to Stephanie Phillips' Phoenix series, she has been putting together what is effectively a Thanos-led coalition where Thanos, as well as the dark gods of Asgard, namely Pericus, they have manipulated the Galactic Council into taking their advice on this whole thing. The rest of the galaxy is terrified because of what the Phoenix represents. Its power unimaginable, and it's power that has destroyed an entire solar system before. Even though technically Jean is in full control of everything that's going on here, people are terrified. So what's the best way to ensure that the Phoenix doesn't mess with you? And it's to have the love of her life, Scott Summers, aka Cyclops, under lock and key. I still don't think that's a good idea, because at that point, you're basically testing her. You're basically testing her. You're telling her you want the smoke. Is that's what it is? You are like, I don't think these space pirates actually thought this whole thing through. I don't think they really thought it through. But hey, it is what it is, and I'm here for it. I'm here for the pettiness of it. But what is really cool about this, I mean, that's like in and of itself, honestly, you know, the more I think about it, is the biggest reveal. But what Jed McKay is setting up here, and he thinks he's slick. He thinks he's slick. He ain't slick. I see what Jed's doing. Jed's trying to get Alpha Flight booked. I see your Canadian ass. You trying to make Alpha Flight a thing. I'm here for it. I love it. I actually unironically love Alpha Flight. I didn't when I was a kid. I've talked about that before. I didn't really have a whole heap of a lot of love for Alpha Flight back in the day, but I have a lot of love for them now. I actually challenge anyone, go back and read some of the old Alpha Flight. It'll change your life, because that book was actually heat. I didn't appreciate it as a kid, and now having gone back and reread a lot of that stuff, I'm like, man, dude, I hate that I didn't give this shit a fair chance back in the day. But that said, Alpha Flight's back. We talked about that towards the end of the previous video, and something very interesting is happening here. I talked about the fact that it was unclear why Alpha Flight was back, considering they had been arrested for what was effectively considered treason. At the time, they were helping mutants in what was effectively an underground railroad, trying to help mutants get off planet, away from Orcus and all their fuck shit. Well, as it turns out, you know, we learned at the end of Ed Brisson's Alpha Flight that they had all been arrested. It comes to terms that the reason why Alpha Flight is back and acting in a superhero capacity is because they've effectively been turned from Alpha Flight into Canada's version of the Thunderbolts. They are criminals. They are still in prison. They have not been set free, but they are working for Department H. For all intents and purposes, the government. That is like, if you wanted a Canadian version of S.H.I.E.L.D., that's basically what Department H is. And they are now working directly for Department H, same as before, but now they are not free people. They are still prisoners. The thing that I found really funny about this is that we don't see the entire team. And there are even some people who are on the team I don't recall getting arrested before. In the final issue of Ed Brisson's Alpha Flight number 5, it was revealed that both Vindicator, Shaman, Snowbird, and Puck were arrested, as too was Vindicator, but she was in a coma, and at the time was operating under the codename Nemesis, as a couple of other previous characters have done in Alpha Flight's history. It was really strange to me because Marina is involved with all this, but she was not one of the people who was arrested. That's because she turned herself in. I actually think that's an interesting thing. I feel like maybe this got written in so Jed would be able to have this character, considering that when we last saw her, she was on the Alpha Flight space station. She was nowhere within a stone's throw of the other Alpha Flight team members. So that's probably why all this came up, is that Jed wanted her on the team, but she wasn't set up to be in a position to be on the team. Thus, she is put in that position to be on the team. Thus, we can have her here, which I think is cool. I like Merida, and I enjoy seeing her on the Alpha Flight team. So that said, there's a new character we're introduced to by the name of Agent Arsenault, and she is the one who is operating as Vindicator. So the Vindicator we see in this comic is not Heather Hudson at all. This is an entirely new character, and nobody on Alpha Flight seems to think much of her or care for her any at all whatsoever. And she is effectively the handler now for this new Alpha Flight team. And yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy to think about. It's crazy to think about. But yeah, once again, I'm here for it. You will notice that Shaman is not involved in proceedings. He is actually completely, just said, no, I'm not with y'all on this. I'm not working, for this new version of the Alpha Flight program. I'm out. But the government seems more than happy to hold all of them under lock and key and use them whenever they need. Now, that said, I do also appreciate we're not doing the typical dumb superhero shenanigans thing where, oh, hey, the X-Men are here, Alpha Flight's here, let's make them fight for a couple of issues before they actually deal with the problem at hand. No, when Alpha Flight shows up, they immediately start working together. And they do need to work together because the space pirates came prepared. The X-Men are getting dunked on. They are getting dog walked in this issue. We already saw that the space pirates were prepared for Cyclops. They showed up with ruby quartz armor to negate his optic blast. They came with a special type of foam that would stop the Juggernaut dead in his tracks, and they showed up with high frequency vibration pulse rifles that could give even Magic enough vertigo that it would completely throw off her teleportation abilities. So they, like I said, they showed up ready to throw down. So they need Alpha Flight's help, and Alpha Flight is instrumental in helping them not only save Cyclops, but also take down the space pirates, one of which is a character we've actually seen before. Some of you may or may not remember the character, Dr. Xanto Starblood. This is a character who we first saw in Jason Aaron and Nick Bradshaw's Wolverine and the X-Men series. There's actually a point even where he brings up how Kid Omega and Temper used to be students of his. This was a fair bit later in the series where this comes up. We would see him in the kind of the back half of that Wolverine and the X-Men series. So yeah, I thought it was actually really cool that Jed brought this up. Like, once again, I always say it, Jed is here for the deep cuts. He is always here for the deep cuts. So this is one of those where I'm like, you know what? Good on you for that deep cut. I love to see it. But yeah, all that said, yeah, this issue was fantastic. I thought it was great. And I'll also go on a limb and say too, with everything that's happening with X-Manhunt, because that's literally the next thing. And I think that's why we had so many X titles drop last week, is so everything can, the slate can be reset. Because some of you may or may not know the reason why, and I actually did not do videos for really, I don't think any of these books, with the exception of maybe the Storm series. There were 9 X titles that came out, 8 of which were in main continuity.
I can't get jiggy with this shit.
It is what it is. I'm a person. I'm one guy. I ain't got all that time. I'm trying to do other shit. I'm trying to make YouTube videos as well as write and draw comics and be a dad and a husband. Sorry, but I'm not gonna sit at this computer chained down all goddamn day making 9 separate videos for 9 separate X-Men books. Y'all kiss my ass. Anyway, sorry. I'm sorry, not sorry. I mean, I know that might lose me some fans, but I'm sorry, man. I got a life, okay? I got a life. Whole life. But no, I will definitely say that, yeah, the whole thing with, Charles Xavier getting out, we kind of knew this was coming. X-Manhunt had already, teased in the solicits that Charles Xavier was going to get free. And I didn't read every X book, so maybe it came up in another one. But we just know that by the end of this, when Cyclops and Guardian are having their heart-to-heart after the proceedings, that, because Cyclops like, hey, I'll bust you out. And Guardian's like, nah, man, I'm good. We're gonna ride this out. But then immediately after that conversation is when Cyclops learns what's going on. And considering Cyclops is not very happy with Charles Xavier right now, this is going to be effectively, X-Manhunt is going to be the X-Men's version of Civil War, because we know that there are factions within the X-Men who want Charles to be free, other factions who don't. Cyclops's being the one that doesn't, Rogue's being the one that does. And we know that Storm is going to throw her lot behind Charles, which is interesting when you really think about it. And but makes sense. I know there's gonna be some people that are gonna think that doesn't make any sense for Storm. It actually does. Storm is the most moral person. The only person who rivals her in morality is Nightcrawler. And even, I would dare say Storm is even more morally sound than Nightcrawler can be at times. But that's the reason why. That is the reason why. I used to always laugh at people when they would say, Storm is so much better than Cyclops because, you know, she's about that action. But people forget, Cyclops and Storm are damn near the same character. The difference is that Cyclops does have a capacity to do wrong for the right reasons. Storm rises above that. As a matter of fact, I remember people used to always say Cyclops was too goody two-shoes and that Storm wasn't. That tells me you do not know shit about Storm. Storm is more goody two-shoes than even Cyclops. Yes, she is. Yes, she is. But she's better for it. Not to say Cyclops is bad, but I mean, honestly, you can't blame Cyclops for how he feels about Charles Xavier. You also can't blame Storm for how she feels about Charles, because at the end of the day, she probably feels the exact same thing about Charles as Cyclops does. The difference is that she also feels the same way as Rogue, and she's always going to side, you know, with her better angels. So that's just what that is, and you either accept it or you don't. But yeah, X-Manhunt's next. I thought this was a nice little issue to, you know, kind of unrelated, you know, to the main thing, and kind of allows you to just kind of enjoy a good story. And, you know, also kind of showcase maybe a taste of some things going on elsewhere in the From the Ashes line. But we do know some of these other books are getting canceled. We do know that a lot of them are going to be ending. NYX is toast, as is X-Force. X-Force is also going to the Shadow Realm. And we also know X-Factor also going to glory. I'm sad about that one specifically. It's not to say the other two books were bad. Like NYX I thought was fine, but it kind of lost me in the last issue or so with the whole Sync Prodigy thing. X-Force was fine. There was nothing wrong with it. It wasn't a book that I was going to read and talk about, because I don't know. It was good, but it wasn't like make a video about it good. That make any sense? And your X-Factor, while I loved, and I think I actually committed more videos to X-Factor, maybe possibly, than I did X-Force. But X-Factor I thought was actually a genuinely good story. I'm sad that it's going to be ending, but I think all of these books are going to be ending with issue 10, which basically means that once X-Manhunt's over, they're over. And so yeah, but I think that's fine, because honestly, I think we do need to bring down the number of X titles. I think we got too many. 9 X books coming out in a week? What is this, 1995? Yeah, no, I'm good. I'm good.